Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Spokane, where our mission is to join together to create a nourishing, liberal religious home and to champion justice, diversity, and environmental stewardship in our wider world. Or as we say in short, to create community, find meaning, and work for justice. Welcome to one and all. I want to begin, as always, by embracing all that you bring with you, all of your unique beliefs, your background, your lifestyle, your experiences, all that is part of being who you are. And this includes those of you who are in this room, whether you are one who hears me say this each Sunday or someone who might be joining us for the first time. You're equally as welcome. And of course, it is also a big welcome to those of you who are streaming with us. Glad to know that you're here today too. So, Dario Ray is also here this morning. He's going to be doing our special music throughout our service. So great to have you back after a long time since we were last able to see you and hear you. So thanks for getting us started today with your wonderful music. A couple of, really only one major announcement. Last week I told the members of this congregation that Majel Fausel, one of our longtime members, passed away a couple of weeks ago. Wanted to let you know that her memorial service is going to be this Wednesday, the 23rd at 3 p.m. here in our sanctuary. So again, Wednesday at 3. And of course, I want to wish all of you a happy Father's Day today, especially those of you who are fathers. It made my day to get to borrow a couple of kids today and have them come up and give me a Father's Day hug. You guys are such a lucky family, man. What a great crew you are, all of you. But happy Father's Day to all of the fathers in the room. And because we are Unitarian Universalists and want to include everyone, I will say that everyone who has had or has a father, happy Father's Day to you too. So everybody's included. I hope you have a wonderful day of celebrating together. Let's take a moment here at the start of our service to greet one another. As always, say hi to someone you have missed seeing, and maybe someone you haven't met yet today as well. And if you're joining us, please don't be shy. We won't bite. And for those who are All right, sorry to break that up, but you get to hang out more after our service during our social hour. I hope you will. But let's move forward now by lighting our chalice, the symbol of our faith, the symbol of our unity and our solidarity, of our openness and our inclusion, of our community and our individual uniqueness. May this small flame be our offering of warmth to those who are cold and alone, and a light to those in darkness. May it be a flame that ignites justice in our world and a beacon of hope to those in need, and may it reflect at least a spark of truth wherever truth has been lost, and cast a healthy shadow of doubt wherever it's been found.
The opening words are an excerpt from an article written by Jason Pfeiffer at the beginning of 2020, entitled Predictions. As we enter this new year, full of hope and trepidation and the scars of 2020, I thought it would be helpful to see what people from a full century ago envisioned for us. They'd recently survived World War I and the Spanish flu of 1918, and they were witnessing a technological revolution. Electricity, commercial aviation, radio, and many other innovations were new. How, they wondered, would these things transform their world? To find out, I searched for the phrase "the year 2021" in the newspapers of 1921. Articles of the day were full of predictions. The people of 1921 imagined fanciful conveniences that today we take for granted, like controlling the temperature in our homes, cooking more easily, and flying around the world. These were fantasies of theirs, and they are a reality. It should make us think. For all the real hardships we face, we are also living in someone else's dream world. And we now get to build towards our own future dreams.
And against that backdrop, we also have things that have been around for a very, very, very long time, certainly since human beings, and of course before that. Today is actually, we're celebrating also the summer solstice, which when I was a kid was called the longest day of the year, meaning the most light. So we have a little ritual here. You will notice that we've changed our banner over on the right side of the pulpit. That's our seasonal banner. That's the summer one that's up now. And we will be singing Chant for the Seasons, the summer verse. You will see words on your screen, and if you care to grab a hymnal, it is 73 in the hymnal, and it would be the last verse if you are a hymnal user. So please stand as you're willing and able. Chant for the Seasons.
Summer is upon us. Vernal clouds have turned the star wheel. Summer is upon us. Gliding on the hawks, hovering above the hot and yellow hillside. Vernal clouds have turned the star wheel. Summer is upon us. Crickets in the night, chirping in our ears. The sound of moonlit music. Vernal clouds have turned the star wheel. Summer is upon us.
All right, good morning. I would like to welcome any children or children at heart to come up and meet my new friend, Bun Bun. You see, Bun Bun is feeling pretty shy about being here this morning. He told me he was worried about being here because everybody sitting in the congregation looks so different from him. Bun Bun, can we still have a conversation with you? He is so soft. I'll let everyone pet him when we're done, if he lets us. But can we talk with you this morning, Bun Bun? Okay, he said we can ask him some questions, but he doesn't want to talk. We'll ask him the questions, and then he'll whisper in my ear, and then I'll share his answers with everyone. Does that sound good? Okay, well, let's find out what Bun Bun's favorite color is. Bun Bun, what is your favorite color? Oh, Bun Bun likes blue. Do any of you like the color blue? It is. Raise your hand if you. Okay, let's talk about cookies. What's your favorite kind of cookie? That's what he just told me his favorite color is. Or his favorite cookie is. Who else here likes chocolate chip cookies? Oh, okay. He also wants me to let you know he does not like oatmeal raisin cookies. You don't? Wow. Bun Bun, you have so much in common with Hadley. Does that make you feel good? All right. Who here likes oatmeal raisin cookies? Yeah. So maybe you might be open to trying them someday. He's not so sure about that. Bun Bun, what do you like to do when you're at home and have a few extra minutes of time? Oh, he likes coloring for his sisters. How many sisters do you have? You do. So much in common. You guys, he just told me he had 27 sisters. Do any of you have 27 sisters? Just one. Okay, well maybe that's a way that we're different from Bun Bun, but that's something we can relate to. Bun Bun's got siblings, and you have two. That's right. 3. Every family's different, aren't they? And that's okay. Bun Bun's got 27. Who else do you live with, Bun Bun? Oh, Bun Bun lives with his grandma and grandpa. And okay, so you get to see them sometimes. Isn't that fun? When we have a conversation with someone that we don't know, we get to learn new things about them. We can make connections to them. We can get curious. I have a lot more questions for you, Bun Bun. And we can make the other person feel a little more comfortable. Already, I think Bun Bun is feeling a little bit better about being here. Look at that. He's really happy to be here. Do you think you'd come back and talk to us later, Bun Bun? For now, he's waving goodbye, but we might see Bun Bun.
To people suffering from substance use disorders in a safe and therapeutic environment. Focused on removing barriers to treatment, people will be empowered to engage in recovery and live life to their fullest potential. Bringing community connection to support the building of trust, hope, and personal empowerment to people experiencing houselessness are primary goals of CAT. We now gratefully give and receive this morning's offering, which sustains this community and its mission to the larger world.
To forgo employ me with the I tasted soil this year from the cupboard of a Granford on the west end. I wandered toward that tree. I rolled up my sleeve, carved my bones like grooves in the soil, burrowing through, waiting for you.
Thanks so much, Dario. It's a gift to have you with us today. We're now going to kindle our candles of care for those who are most on our hearts and minds. And I have one candle today, a candle of celebration for Sherry Catt and Craig Thompson, who are members of our congregation who got married here yesterday. First wedding we've had in the building in a long time. Congratulations to them. And I hope you get to know them. They're not here today for obvious reasons, but they were first engaged 54 years ago as students at Eastern. And the war and other things just, things got in the way, and life happened, and a couple years ago or so, they bumped into each other again. So here we are. This is the full circle. So like I say, that's the only specific candle I had, so we'll go into a moment of silence on behalf of others that you might be thinking of, and as always, you're welcome to name them aloud at this time if you'd like. Those named aloud and those embraced in our silence, and all those who are suffering in our world at this hour, we hold in our community with compassion.
We are travelers on a cosmic journey, stardust swirling and dancing in the eddies and whirlpools of infinity. Life is eternal. We have stopped for a moment to encounter each other, to meet, to love, to share. This is a precious moment. A little parenthesis in eternity. Paulo Coelho.
I was smart, I would have put a bookmark in here. This is a brief reading from Ralph Waldo Emerson. A person will worship something, have no doubt about that. We may think our tribute is paid in secret in the dark recesses of our hearts, but it will out. That which dominates our imaginations and our thoughts will determine our lives and our character. Therefore, it behooves us to be careful what we worship, for what we are worshiping, we are becoming.
Can't hurt you. The courtesy of hand that slipped from the form, and I miss you. Been here before, I'll come here again. In the eyes of a bird and the mark of a pen, searching for truth with color and line, in a world without sound or body or time. The beauty of stars, whoever you are, that we can't hurt you. The courtesy of hand that slipped from the form, and I miss you. Been here before, I'll come here again. With the eyes of a bird and the mark of a pen, searching for truth with color and line, in a world without sound or body or time. Beauty of stars, whoever you are, is that we can't hurt you. The courtesy of hand that slipped from the form, and I miss you.
Dario Ray, it's been such a pleasure having you with us today. Thank you for sharing your musical talent, your voice talent, your writing talent. What an incredible gift. Yeah, for sure. So today I'm going to do something I haven't been able to do for a couple of years, actually, and that is a Conversations with Todd, where I open the floor up to questions about, maybe something you've been wondering about that I've not spoken about, or maybe something I have spoken about that you had some additional questions about, or anything else, outside of church business. That's what business meetings are for. So yeah, it's been over 2 years since I've had to think on my feet, so let's see how I do. So yeah, anybody want to get us started with... Okay, it's been great being with you. I hope... Yes. Well, Karen or Dick, either one? You guys arm wrestle over it? Okay. And I'll repeat the question, but go ahead, yeah.
I have a question about the teaching of race in America. On the right, we have the far right going to state legislatures and saying we can't have racism curricula. We're a good country. We don't need to look backward. On the far left, we have all of our institutions being labeled racist, and there's pressure to all declare ourselves individually as racists. If you were in charge of curriculum for high schools especially, what kind of anti-racism or racism curriculum would you design?
Okay, yeah, really good question. And so for those who didn't hear it, I'm going to paraphrase. But given this sort of extreme ends in our country, where conservatives are saying, we don't have to talk about race. This is fundamentally a good country. That stuff's in the past. Let's quit overemphasizing it. And then on the far left, I guess I will refer to them as, just kind of want everything to be dominated through this one frame, this one lens, even to the point of just making it front and center in our own individual lives. What kind of anti-racism curriculum or approach would I recommend versus those two extremes? It's not something I've thought about a lot as far as the curriculum end of it goes, but we can't look at everything through the lens of racism. Right? Not everything that's happened in our country is the result of white supremacy, which is what the far left is saying. And so somebody says, well, let's use reason and logic, or freedom of speech, or these sort of arguments, and they say, well, that's all white supremacy culture. You can't. Freedom of speech is out. Logic is out. That becomes very extreme and nonsensical and creates a really crazy society. So, I don't think we should be using that lens in education, whether it's public education or college education where it began. But there's also no denying, and I don't think most people would deny, and even most Republicans wouldn't deny, not only that racism is a horrible scourge, not only from the past in this country, but in the present. And I hear people argue against that too, including some black scholars who I admire, who say, well, that's really not the case. I personally believe that the fact that we see so many black men, in particular, being killed in incidents with police officers is statistically more than others who are being killed in incidents with police officers. I think that data is true, and we can play with the data however we want and say that it's not the result of racism. Maybe it's not, but it certainly seems to be something that has to do with the systems, old systems that are still active in our country, and I think that's a fair argument. I certainly think that the new Jim Crow, as Michelle Alexander calls it, which says that the era of mass incarceration is really leftover of Jim Crow, a new way to disenfranchise particularly a lot of people who would not vote Democrat, if you will, if they could. So I think that all of that is true. So we not only do we, to be a responsible society, we have to continue to address it in education, and we have to address it in ways that are different than just being a historical survey of what happened in the past and dismissing it as, look how far we've come, because we've not come far enough. So I guess, the curriculum that I would prefer, and I said something similar in the first service related to just politics in general, whether or not we should have a third party. I think what we need to remember is that the best of Western culture, and there is a lot of Western culture that is beautiful and unique, and that came out of the Renaissance, that inspired the Enlightenment philosophers, who inspired the founders, if you will, of the United States Constitution. And that was, going back to these humanistic principles that the Greeks discovered 2,600 years ago, that were really, reason, freedom of the individual, tolerance, religious tolerance in particular, a tolerance of different ideas in particular, and human happiness. That was an invention of the Enlightenment. I mean, people didn't believe they could be happy. We weren't supposed to be happy. Life is supposed to be miserable, and we'd be happy in the afterlife. So human happiness is a gift. And human happiness, that means human flourishing, right? It means individual unfolding. And these are the teachings that we should be teaching. These are the fundamental principles, the fundamental virtues that create the character that strives ever toward a society that doesn't exclude people, especially exclude them in ways that are unjust and that are hostile, and prevent them as individuals from unfolding. And it is that spirit that causes us to despise racism to begin with, and causes us to despise homophobia to begin with, and any other kind of hatred towards others or prejudice towards others based on these really arbitrary matters of genetics or conditions of one's birth. So it's kind of a long answer, but I'm not sure I would talk about a curriculum. I certainly would not use critical race theory curriculum. I think that is unfounded and extreme. But we should talk honestly about race in this country. We should talk about the history, and we should talk honestly about what's going on in our nation now in ways that include data, which educators should be doing, right? They should be backing up anything they're teaching with data and with research. And at the same time, we've got to promote. We've got to have a new Renaissance, because those Renaissance ideas, those Enlightenment principles, are under assault themselves right now as being part of the problem. They're just being lumped together as part of whiteness. And if we lose our commitment to freedom, it's going to be a miserable society. If we lose our commitment to tolerance, it's going to be a miserable society. If we lose our commitment to humanism, which is, again, the unfolding of every individual, it's going to be a miserable society. So, unity cannot come by segregating us based on our identities. And that's what this extremist thinking on the left is doing. It's a new form of segregation. It says we're all so different. We're all so alien from each other based on the very things we're supposed to be not letting get in the way of our relationships, our race, our gender, our sexuality, our income, and putting us into these quadrants, these intersections, based on these qualities, and saying that's all we are, and that's causing segregation. The straight man can't understand the gay woman. The white-skinned person can't understand somebody with darker skin. And so, in this promotion of identity, we've lost the balance of our common humanity. Right? That the reason we should care for each other and treat one another with respect is because fundamentally we're the same. We're not different. That's the lie we've been fighting against. That's the lie we've been pushing back against, right? You can't make slaves out of human beings because they're human beings. So, along with that notion of identity, that identity shouldn't get in the way, we also have to uplift this understanding that fundamentally we're all brothers and sisters. We're the same species. Human beings are so genetically alike that we are, there's more difference between two chimpanzees living in the same troop than there are between any two human beings on Earth. We are the same species. The segregation and the differences are part of the lie. And it is in recognizing our common humanity that we celebrate our unique gifts and our unique differences. So that was the short answer. Yes? Yeah.
Okay. So one thing that I've always found sort of striking is when you describe Unitarian Universalism as a religion. Because my whole life I've associated religion with a belief in the supernatural, but that's not necessarily you can, but you describe yourself as an atheist. A closely associated word with religion is spirituality. Some people will say I'm religious but not spiritual. So I guess I'm curious how you understand religion, spirituality, the supernatural, and how those sort of relate.
Okay.
And what those mean for you.
Sure. So the question, if I can paraphrase, is, it's weird to call Unitarian Universalism a religion because it's so unlike most religions, what we think of religions being. And there's some folks will often say I'm spiritual but not religious because they don't like some of the baggage that comes with religion. And what's the relationship between spirituality and religion and this weird religion that we're part of, this liberal religion, Unitarian Universalism? And it's a really good question. And again, this one won't take me long. So Unitarian Universalism, which is the convergence of two different, really ancient religions that formed an association in 1961, Unitarianism and Universalism, are rooted in Christianity. They were two theological ideas that eventually became heretical. One was the disbelief in the divinity of Jesus, and the other was the disbelief in the eternity of hell, Universalism. And those sort of had this more open-mindedness throughout their history. And they, particularly in the United States, Unitarianism was really an outgrowth of the Enlightenment thinkers. It's related to its European cousin, where it originated back in the 16th century, but it really arose somewhat independently here in the United States. And then Universalism, by the time the 60s came around, they were really becoming humanistic in their universalism. Right? It was less about a disbelief in hell and more about a belief in our common humanity. So it seemed like a good fit, and they got together. So So one, it has ancient religious roots, even if it is diverged quite a bit from religion as we know it. But also keep in mind, it really, Christianity is really the anomaly of religions, even though it seems so common in Western culture because it's been so dominant. But the idea that religion is based on a theological belief, and as long as you have that belief, it doesn't matter what else you do. As long as you have the right idea, you're a religious person, right? That's not been the norm throughout history. That wasn't the norm of Judaism, which was a pragmatic religion. It was about being Jewish was about what you do, and that was also very similar to Islam for a long time, right? You had 5 pillars that were all actions that you were supposed take on throughout your life. And Christianity, as it got older, became dogma-based. So we think of religion as being about beliefs, right? We don't say, when we compare Methodists and Presbyterians, we don't say, what's the difference between what they do? We say, what's the difference between what they believe? But most religions, even in the world today, most people who are religious in the world today, I'll put it that way, not most religions, Hinduism, Taoism, Buddhism, even religious humanism, these are what you classify as non-theistic religions. Right? They're not based on a theological concept of God. You're not a Hindu because you have an idea, a belief about God. You're not a Buddhist because you have a belief about God. You're not a Taoist because you have a particular belief about God, right? These are all about ways of being in the world. So those are non-theistic. And what happened to Unitarian Universalism is that it became a non-theistic religion, more akin to these other ancient global religions. So that's the first part of the question. Why I consider us a religion, even though we're non-theistic. We're in the non-theistic school of religions, which are most religions, and been what religions have been throughout most of history. The relationship between spirituality and religion is a good one, because I consider myself religious but not spiritual. I'm an atheist, as you pointed out, because I don't believe in a personal God. But I consider myself devoutly religious, because religious, again, is something that you do. It's a way of being in the world. It's a character, right? It has something to do with virtues that one adopts and says, this is how I'm going to strive to live my life. And I try to follow those religiously. Not that I'm always great at it, but that's what being religious is, trying to follow a practice. So spiritual, on the other hand, it's a great word, but it's kind of like God. It's so nebulous that it's hard to define what it means, and people tend to use it as if we all know what it means. And we don't. We often have very different understandings of what it means. And sometimes when people use the word spiritual, I think it's a word that connotes a detachment from reality. I mean, that's actually what the word spirit means, right? A non-corporeal. So we're detached from at least material world. And there's some idea about spiritual means we're not connected to this world. Right? That's one interpretation of Buddhism, that clinging to this world causes us to suffer. Unlike the poet Rumi, who said, "Drink all your passions and be a disgrace." That's my kind of spirituality, because I like the physical realm. I like empiricism and being able to try to make sense of the mystery of that which is before us. This isn't dirty. This isn't broken. It's not fallen. It's not sinful. There's nothing wrong with this. This is amazing. As far as we know in the whole universe, there may be no other beings that are conscious enough to say, wow, look, how did we get here? And to understand a little bit about how we got here. Through the beginning of the unfolding 13.7 billion years ago, and all of these stardust, colliding and complexifying, and in that complexity, creating chemistry and creating planets and gases, and then becoming simple cell life forms, and those simple cells coming together and complexifying and forming multicellular beings, and multicellular beings complexifying and forming, complicated beings, including human beings. I mean, I haven't heard any religion tell me anything more amazing than that, more profound than that. So I have problems with the word spiritual myself, because it feels like it often refers to things that aren't real. And anyway, I could go on about it. I'm not going to. I don't like to disparage words, because it has its worth. I mean, the root of it is sphere, right? So to be spirited, inspired, is to be penetrated by something deeply. And that's what spirituality is. It's being penetrated by something. So sometimes you get penetrated by an idea that just stays. Sometimes it's team spirit. Sometimes you get penetrated by, what's a sports team? I can't think of any because I don't like sports. The Seahawks. Thank you. That's I could see the bird. The Seahawks. So team spirit, right? Or get with the Spirit, right? The Spirit of 76. Spirits, right? There's all sorts of things that penetrate us and can take us over. They're not always good spirits. And sometimes they're wonderful, joyful spirits. And sometimes they're temporary spirits that come and go. So a religion can be a spirituality in the sense that it stays with you for a very long time until it stops serving you and you move on to something else. So I don't want to disparage the word, but I'm cautious about how it's used in most cases, which, we're not always talking about the same thing when we hear it. So, yeah, I'm going to go with Don, and then I'll go with Dick, and then back here. Okay, so Don.
Yeah,
I'll try to be briefer, too.
This is just a little bit easier question.
Okay, an easier question.
I was here when Matthew Watkins came and spoke about supporting you and protecting you, and I thought that was such a witness to what you have been in the community, and I thought the brotherhood he expressed between the two of you. I'm curious about how happy he's doing, and your relationship, say, with his church since he retired from that. And I know there's a church up on the north side that I donated to because of your urging. And I just wanted you to comment about the relationships as they're going on now with all this stuff that's happening. But mainly I want to know how happy he's doing.
Okay, so Don's asking me about my friend Happy Watkins, who's a minister here in Spokane. He's been the minister of New Hope Baptist Church. He's retired now, but for many, many decades in the community. African American minister. And Happy came, well, it must have been before COVID because he was here in person. And he comes periodically, but for those who don't know, most of you do, that I wrote a very controversial book and got me in a lot of hot water with some folks, including some folks in our congregation who weren't very happy with it. And Happy Watkins came and asked if he could borrow the pulpit one morning for a few minutes, and he gave his support of me. I'll put it that way. So Don was asking about my relationship with Happy Watkins and particularly how Happy's doing. So first of all, I will say that I'm always reluctant to talk about my friendship with Happy Watkins or anybody else who is non-white, which is a term I like to use, because these are my friends, period. I grew up in the Bay Area in a mixed neighborhood, and we were all equal opportunity haters, okay? There was no mystery around somebody who was had darker pigmentation than I did, or vice versa. And we learned to become very good friends in that atmosphere. I moved into that neighborhood in 1969, and I grew up in it. And we learned to love each other and be the best of friends. I can't even remember having any white friends growing up. It just wasn't something that I thought about. So when I have I understand the rest of the country is very segregated. It is shocking to move out of California and to find segregated neighborhoods, and mostly black neighborhoods, and mostly wealthy neighborhoods, and mostly Latino neighborhoods, and so on. That's a reality that we should not forget. But I don't like it when a person comes to our church, which if I look around today, it's probably most exclusively what we would say white folks. Sorry if there's somebody here I'm not seeing. But when somebody comes who is non-white, there's often sort of this rush of excitement, and nobody feels good about that, We're just all human beings. So, I love my friend Happy. We're good friends. We talk to each other frequently. We call each other and check on each other. He called me and let me know just a week or two ago about his grandson who's gotten all these academic awards and sports awards and is, probably going to get a scholarship to his prestigious school. And he was so excited to let me know, about his grandson. That's kind of the relationship we have. And there's other ministers in the community too that I'm friends with, and I consider my best friends. But I don't like to talk about that because I feel like it dehumanizes them when I do. Not that your question's out of line by any means, Don, but I just want to be friends with them. I don't want to virtue signal.
How's Happy's health?
Happy's health is good. Last I checked, he's lost some weight and still having a knee problem. He wants to get worked on here. I'm giving his medical condition over the stream, but anyway, he'll forgive me. He'll forgive me. He's doing okay. Yeah. So thank you for asking. So let's see. We had Dick and then our guest back here. Remind me. Tyler, okay, yeah, after Dick, Tyler. I'm sorry, I should have remembered, but I know we've been in communication over the week, but I was drawing a blank, so I'll get you next. And then we'll probably stop there unless these are really quick, because I can't even answer Don's simple question quickly.
Yeah, I have quite a question here. So Wednesday this coming week, the General Assembly of UUs starts for about 5 days through Sunday. What are the top 3 things you would like to see come out of this General Assembly of UUs?
So the Unitarian Universalist Association's General Assembly, it's going to be virtual again this year, will be online beginning Wednesday. And Dick is asking what are the top 3 things that I would like to see come out of it. The first thing I would like to see is Jay Kiskell win the election to the Board of Trustees. For those who don't know Jay, he is a Unitarian Universalist who has stepped into the fray to force an election. He's one of the authors of Used to Be UU, and which exposes the fact that we haven't actually had an election of board members in a decade. They're just appointed, self-appointed by the board, if you will, uncontested elections. And Jay, who became aware of what's going on in the UUA after my book came out, he formed an organization called the Fifth Principle Project, and he and his co-author Frank Casper have put this new book out. But Jay is running for under the principle of bringing democracy, the democratic systems back to the UUA. That would be a very good sign if he won. It would be heartwarming because it would mean that delegates, the few delegates who go from around the country, are aware of what's going on, and they will, put a person in office for the first time in many years. Be a good sign about the direction we're heading. Outside of that, the smart aleck in me wants to say I'd love to see a bunch of protests and see them shut it down, but not really. I really don't want that. But I would, the UUA leadership is able to control conversation, especially through a digital format, and it looks like they've already stopped accepting letters to the editor in our World magazine. They don't respond to anybody who writes them about their concerns. They won't engage, if you will, one of their favorite terms, with their congregations. I would love to see some sort of dissent, some sort of dissent expressed. And from that, the third would be some sort of honest conversation. Because right now, there is no honest conversation. They simply attack anybody who disagrees with them, demonize them as racist, homophobic, transphobic, ableist, classist. They throw the whole kitchen sink out without ever hearing a word they have to say, and dehumanize and delegitimize and demonize in just an instant. And I would love to see that stop. I would love to see them open themselves to dissenting voices and dissenting voices be heard, and then carrying conversations about that dissent. That would be Unitarian Universalism. That's what it should look like. So Tyler, we'll let you have the last question.
Feel free to elaborate on this one a little bit. What is the Unitarian Church's vision of a collective conscience or a higher conscience, and how does that compare and relate to yours in this congregation?
Okay, thank you. So what is the Unitarian Universalist idea of a higher consciousness, for lack of a better term? Or collective conscience? Okay, or collective. And what is our local concept of that? So to answer that fairly, I would have to say, and this goes back to Shane's question about religion, right? We're a very strange religion because we don't have any real central ideas that would define what we believe as on a national level or even on a local level. So there are people here that have varied opinions on whether or not there is a God and what the nature of God is, if they do believe in such a being.
I don't think it has to be a God.
Yeah.
I would say just as a whole, that's why I refer to collective conscience in particular as well. I feel like that's a reflection of everybody as a whole.
So when you think of collective conscious, are you talking about our connectedness as individuals?
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
maybe that manifests into something greater than ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So let me just tackle it from a little different angle then. The idea of a collective conscious of our relationship to each other. You know, Unitarianism in particular, and Universalism both, because of its disbelief in hell, is really an uplifting of the worth of the individual, right? Nobody should be punished forever. But Unitarianism is almost a religion of the individual. You know, in the sense that the one thing we all share in common as members of a community is our common commitment to you as an individual, to your freedom, to grow and to express yourself and to find your own way without being harassed. That is really the fundamentals of our religion. So in some ways, we're the antithesis of a collective consciousness. We almost defy the very meaning of community, because the thing we share in common is that we don't have to share anything in common. Right? It's a paradox. We're a paradox. Having said that, historically, we have been very active in what we would call social justice, you know, whether it was women's suffrage or abolition of slavery or gay rights, environmental activism, because we do transcend individualism, but we don't transcend it vertically, right? It's not the oversoul of Emerson that is our transcendent experience. Our transcendent experience is horizontal, right? We bound outward toward other and others, other with a capital O, the world, other beings, the trees, the environment, and other human beings. So even as individualistic as we are, as committed we are to the unfolding of every individual, we connect responsibly to the world, because it's not just me as an individual, it's you as an individual. I am responsible for working to create a society and a world where you get to fully unfold, where there are not systems in place in my society that are holding you back. And if I harm your environment, I'm holding you back, right? If I'm creating a space that isn't something you can unfold in, then I'm behaving in a way that is not humanistic. So I would say both are there. Both are deeply there. We're very individualistic. We uplift the individual, and at the same time, we understand our obligation to all individuals, to the worth of all individuals, the worth and dignity of every person. So that's a good point to end. So it's 12:10, and we should probably go. So thank you all very much for letting me think on my feet. Great questions.
Well, you probably know there's an old joke about Unitarian hymns and Unitarians because they want to read the words of the hymns before they will sing them because they're not sure if they're in agreement. Well, I actually, at the end of this service, was rereading the closing hymn because I was a little doubtful about it. But I think it'll work. I think you'll see how "We Would Be One" doesn't have to disavow our individuality. So please rise as you're willing and able to sing number 318, "We Would Be One."
I wrote these following words for the Old Little Nature Chapel on Facebook. Breathe. Breathe. During these striking times in our lives, now that we are daring to hope in the reality of new beginnings as we emerge from unprecedented nightmares, let us stop and breathe deeply. Breathe out the chaos, the isolation, the lack. Breathe in the rebirth, the love, the striving for peace, in a world on its way back to a new normalcy, enhanced by the discoveries of the recent past. Breathe. In. Out. Namaste. And have a very special Father's Day. Amen. Blessed be. Salam alaikum and shalom.
Shalom.